Greetings. Please get yourself a heated plate, sit down, relax as we serve you another delicious steamy slice.
Oh, trying something new.
Well, it's always fat slices.
Yeah, that is true. Fat slices of knowledge.
So, today, fresh.
Yeah, we're going to be tackling something contentious, would you say, today?
Potentially.
It's something that I think fills a lot of artists with dread, and it's business. It's the business side of things. It's turning what you do into a commodity. Scary.
Yeah, so it's a big area, but we thought we would do an episode to just sort of briefly explore some of the themes of a brand, but doing it in a fun way, which is creative and hopefully inspiring. For me, branding and business were difficult words that I couldn't see myself as being involved with, but I'm lucky to have been mentored by DJ Crust, and he put it really well for me into words. He was like, he gave me the analogy of making a piece of music. He was like, well, you know how when you sit down and write a piece of music and you're producing it and there's lots of different moving parts, so you play on the keys and then you'll record it and then you'll put compressors on it and then you'll mix it and you'll put effects on it and then you'll do an arrangement and and a master, and it's like, it's the same thing with creating a brand. You can take the skills that you've learned from your craft and you can apply them to your marketing, you can apply them to your story, the way that you communicate to your audience, and the way that you approach your business is exactly the same. And that really changed it for me, because I think we're conditioned to think that we are one thing and not another thing. When I was growing up, people would comment on me being a creative person. Oh, David, you're a creative person. And then there were other people who were talked about as being a business person. This person's a maths person. This person's a going to go to business school. The person who goes to business school isn't the creative, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's all of these ideas that are conditioned in, and it's not necessarily, I don't necessarily agree. I think like people tend to go towards one thing rather than another thing because their interests take them there, but I think we're all very, very capable of doing all of this stuff and essentially using our creativity to do it. It's very creative. Like, my marketing and my business side of what I do is just as creative and fun. Maybe not quite as fun as writing music, but it's still really fun and creative for me.
Yeah, well, I think part of the problem as well is that if you go and get an art degree, for example, if you go and study art in an academic institution, you're not really taught anything about the business side of things. You're just taught about your technique, your craft, maybe the history of artists that have come before you. But, I studied journalism at university, and there was nothing in there about like how you actually take the skills that you've learned to go and forge a career. There was nothing in there about being a freelance writer or creator, or how to pitch your work to publications and things like that. And it's the same with fiction writing as well. I think, we as artists, I think we just want to think that our work is just so good that it will just speak for itself, and we'll make a career out of it because we're just great, and everyone needs to see that. But the reality, I think, certainly in the modern world, is that there are so many people out there who are doing exactly what you're doing. So you need to find what makes you unique, and you need to work on selling yourself, as a product, essentially. But I think that's something that, we're a bit scared of as artists, because we want to just think, oh, well, I'm, like you say, I'm creative, so I'm not a business person. I don't want to deal with marketing or, the financial side of things. I don't want to have to fill out a tax return. That's boring. I'm an artist. I'm creative. The art speaks for itself. But yeah, I think it's a bit of an old-fashioned kind of view of what being an artist is. And so we're going to just delve into the steps that it takes to build your brand, that horrible, cringy word that I feel I once hated and just resisted for a long time. But now, I have a brand and I'm okay with that.
Well, you've got a couple of brands, right?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I've taken what interests me and what's important to me and turned that into something I know other people, other consumers, other artists will be attracted to. Because I myself am a consumer of art, so I know what interests me, and what draws me to something. So it's just about using your unique experience and your unique skills to build your empire.
Yeah, and I think, brands are people now. Like, I think maybe 20 years ago or something, a brand was like an organization. But the way things are going now, the sort of direction that we're moving into, I feel that human beings are brands as an extension of themselves. And that's just a whole fresh way of kind of looking at it. I really believe that we're all put on this planet for a reason, and that we all have unique qualities and perspectives, and that we need to share them. That's what we're doing here. Like, we're not here by accident. Like, we're all here to contribute to the growth of our species. You can see that in terms of evolution. I mean, that's basically why all of the species are on the planet now, is because they've evolved to adapt really, really, really well to the environment. So we're still on that journey of growth, and as individuals we have a unique perspective to share. And as an individual, my voice is different from any other voice that has ever lived on the planet, and that goes the same for everyone, right? So we've all got something to share. So how do we share it? Well, we've got lots of new technology, and we can use that technology, and we can use the things that we are good at to be heard.
We've got the internet now, there's just so much possibility. It's a lot easier to have a platform and to build something that's unique to you and that works for you, build a machine that's going to help you have a career, and find the opportunities, and all that stuff. But at the same time, I think with the internet, obviously everyone has a platform now, so there are, it's maybe more difficult to get heard, to have your voice heard. And so that's why you need to take steps to just show who you are, through your brand and your business, and treat it like a business, rather than just, this is my creative endeavor and that's all there is to it. Because the likelihood of you getting seen or like headhunted or whatever, it's just low, if you're not putting the effort into just showing who you are to the world. So yeah, we want to help you with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's really important that you are engaging with social media, and that you're putting work out there, and that you're constantly kind of stimulating your audience. And even in Hollywood, I mean, I've just started to read Brandon Kane, A Million Followers. Last night in the bath, I was reading it, and it was saying, in Hollywood, it gave an example of two actors who went for the same job audition for a film, and the actor that got it, she said that there was another actor that she saw do the audition that was like 100 times better than her, like so much of a better performance from this other actor. But they hired her, and the reason that they hired her was that she had hundreds of thousands of followers on her social media. So there you go. But people will check you out. Same for me when I am going for film positions as a composer. I know for a fact that the directors and the film companies are going to be looking at my socials, and if my social media isn't rocking, then do you know what I'm saying? They're going to choose someone who is further on with that stuff. So it's really, really important.
Social proof, is that what it's called?
Social proof, exactly. Yeah, there's a really good book, Cialdini, called Influence, and that has all of the Robert Cialdini, I think, and it's got all of the psychological rules of that human beings have in terms of engaging with things online. If you're trying to sell things to people, you need social proof, which is that lots of other people have engaged with it and approved it, essentially, because it's the group mentality that we all have. It's like, when you get a recommendation from a friend. But it's a really good book. Definitely recommend that. I also recommend to just be constantly reading books on marketing and business. It might be difficult to begin with. It was for me, and it's still a bit of a challenge. But Brandon Kane is a great writer in terms of social media and marketing. Hook Point is another really, really good book. But I really recommend always having a couple of books on the go.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about the interview I did with Bill Oakley in a previous episode, and I asked him at the end, what's the one thing you wish you'd known, or advice that you would give to someone starting out. And he said, actually, I wish I'd had someone who was more versed in the business side of things to advise me on which steps to take in my career. And I think really he's ended up being that person for himself, because now he's just getting his own opportunities. And if you look at his social media, he's got loads of followers and he's constantly putting out content, and he's he is a brand now. He's kind of made himself into a brand. So I think that's kind of a testament to what we're talking about, because he's been working in the industry for a long time, since the late 80s. So he's been through a period of there being no social media, and then realizing that he needs to look out for himself, in that business sense, because I think he'd had a string of agents, but none of them really were looking out for him in that way, So I think building your own opportunities, building your own following, it's really liberating, and you can be creative in this area as well. I certainly feel liberated having built these brands over the past year or so, rather than just sitting around waiting for someone to come and pick me, because my writing is just so great that some publisher is going to come along and just do all that other stuff for me, deal with all the business side of things. So, it's a bit of a reality check, I think.
So, firstly, I think one of the most important things for me is the story. Your story is a central part of your brand and your identity and your work. This is something that I spent a couple of years really, really diving in deep and thinking about and meditating on and experimenting with. And I wrote a number of different drafts until I got to the core story, which I feel is like really uniquely me. And the story really drives through the whole brand. And a lot of people ask me about what is their USP. I mean, I had a conversation recently with someone who's an artist, great artist, and she was asking, oh, so, my work is really vibrant and colorful and is expressive. But there's a lot of painting out there that is like that too. What makes what I do different? And my answer to that was, it's your story that makes it different, because no one else has had the same experiences that you have had. No one else has lived the life that you have lived. No one else has got the drives that you have to do the work that you do. So that's really the jugular is the why. So I feel like the story needs to address the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? These are deep questions. So it takes some inward reflection to really just go in and start thinking about what made me start, what inspired me to start, what's my motivation, what's my drive, what's the thing that I would like to see in the world differently. I'll talk a little bit about myself. I think, if you engage with my work online, you can see my story throughout all of my social media, all of my written work about my music, and my music embraces the story as well. And it's really some powerful experiences as a child with my family who experienced really harsh mental illness problems. My dad was bipolar. He was in prison for a long period of time when I was a child. My mum had depression and she was in bed for a couple of years, and a real dysfunctional family system. And I could see as a child that there was lots of difficulty and lots of problems, and I'm an ENFJ mediator personality type, and I wanted to help. I wanted to find solutions at the time, to try and save them, I guess. Obviously that's not possible, and I know that as an adult, but it led me towards self-expression and music and art, because I could see that when people listened to music, they would change. All of a sudden they would engage with their emotions. There would be a kind of truthful experience that they would have. It was an emotional experience, and it really brought out the best in people. I remember sitting around and listening to jazz records with my mother and her friends. She was friends with lots of jazz musicians when I was a kid, and there was just another level of communication going on when music was involved, and that was very, very powerful to me. And so that led me towards becoming a musician myself and creating music, and it really gave me the understanding of the transformative quality of music in human beings. So that is really at the root of my brand, because with the music that I create, I want to create powerful experiences for other people that can inspire them to grow and to see the world in a different way, because we all live in this mundane humdrum system where everyone's just like disassociated and doing a job that they don't want to do. My mum worked a job that she didn't want to do for 40 years, right? And it's like, what effect does that have on a family that I mean, I felt the resentment because, she didn't want to do that job and she felt like she had to support her kids, right? It's not the world that I want to create. I want to create a world where people are empowered and that they're inspired and that they wake up in the morning excited to do the things that they are put here on this planet to do. I really believe we all have a purpose and a dharma, and that we have so much to offer. So that's briefly a bit about my brand. And do you want to talk a bit, Jade, about your experience?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that I think this whole process obviously takes a lot of reflection, as you've just kind of talked about, and that may involve going back to your childhood, and it might be painful, like looking at these periods of time, looking at your trauma, really going into it. And I think with your brand, that self-reflection is a part of the brand in a way, because when you put out a piece of music, you write, a self-reflective story to go along with it. And so I think that's quite interesting that your search for meaning and authenticity has become part of the brand itself. It's just interesting, I think. And that kind of spiritual side of it is part of it.
Right.
So the search itself can become part of your brand if you're stuck, maybe. Because I've had a similar experience. I was sort of quite lonely as a child. I was an only child. I spent a lot of time on my own, and I never really felt like I fit in, or I didn't really feel understood by my own family. I kind of felt like a bit of an alien, really. And so I've had a similar search for, well, what is it? Like where do I belong? Where do I fit in? Why do I feel the urge to create? So those questions have also, for me, formed part of the brand, I think. And I guess the way I've found my way to my own brand is that I looked back on my own life, and the constant for me has always been strong women. I had a lot of strong women in my family. I was raised by a strong woman. So that was just the world I knew. And I think connecting with my own inner strong woman, because she was lost for a long time. I didn't feel a connection to her. Through my teenage years, through my 20s, I felt very lost, very adrift, very disconnected from that empowered part of myself. So I think for me, the search to kind of reconnect with that empowerment is part of my brand, and helping other women to connect with their strong woman, that's inside them, that's inside all of us. That's definitely formed my brand. And it's like, okay, well, how can I do that? How can I help other women find that strength in themselves? And for me, feminism is a big part of my life, and it's part of what drives me. I'm interested in feminist causes. I volunteer for a feminist charity. It's always been important to me. I think just because I've seen what women kind of have to go through. My mum was abused when she was a child, and I've just seen the consequences of an unbalanced, unequal society on women. And to me, that also extends to minorities, So for me, I think, it's that need to help women and minorities feel empowered in a society that is still pretty unequal, and where there's still discrimination, there's still this disbalance. So I think that's how I've found my way to my brand personally.
Yeah, and that's the good point that you mentioned, is to help, right? Because I think you recognize problems. I think we're kind of built with kind of built to do that as human beings, is to sort of recognize problems, because they affect us so much. Like my childhood, everyone's childhood affects us hugely, and you can't help but go back and reflect on it and see it in a different light as an adult, because you learn so much and you're able to like see things in a new way. When you're a kid, you just look up at your parents or whatever and think that they're God, but when you're an adult, you can see that they're completely flawed. And these kind of realizations, social inequality, system dysfunction, these are things that need to be addressed in society. So really the work is helping other people in their situation. Like for me, when I was younger, I found other artists who helped me tremendously. They helped me get through some of the most harshest times ever. You know, I was just thinking about my early teenage years and how difficult that was for me. And I found musicians that spoke to me in a deep, profound way. And I didn't have that kind of communication with anyone in my life. But with the music artists that I engaged with, they gave me this freedom and optimism, and they inspired me, and like I could deal with my life because I listened to their music. So they really helped me, and I you know, I really want to help other people. I think essentially that's what art, writing, music is so fantastic as doing, is that it provides resources.
Well, I think that's part of this process as well, isn't it? It's like turning it outward rather than just creating for yourself and kind of focusing on what you want to create. You're turning it into the outside world and to other people, and yeah, thinking about how you can help the world, how you can make the world better by what you're doing.
Absolutely, and even just doing what you love is helping the world, in my opinion, because again, going back to my childhood, excuse me, my mum worked like 5-6 days a week, and she wouldn't get home till like 8-9 o'clock, right, at night, and she'd come home stressed out, and right, it's just like that was really traumatic for me when I was a kid. I would just be so scared of her coming home because she'd be so stressed out. It's like, if you do what you love, you are putting joy into the world, and that resonates. Like that matters. Like what you do on an individual level affects the world and the universe. Like I can just see the effects of that process. So do what you love. Do what you love, man. Please.
Yeah, why not? We're only here once. What's the point? Wasting a short time on this earth, you know, working to fulfill someone else's dream. And
this and taking your work into a business and marketing mindset is the pathway to achieving your dreams. Well, I think it's interesting what you're saying, you know, about it hurting when you first started out, but like that's true of everything, right? Because I mean, like name anything that you've done creatively for the first time is really difficult. So music production, using compressors, it took me years to understand compression. It took me years to understand how to play chords and stuff on the guitar properly. And it hurt my fingers putting them on the strings, and it hurt my wrists, and hurt my back and my posture, and learning anything for the first time is hard. But once you master it, it takes time, but if you persist, you will learn how to do it really well. And then once you know how to do it, it is fun. The same for me. I really enjoy writing mission statements now. I've written a bunch of them, and they're kind of easy. I think once you know the formula of how to do it,
and I think once you know the why as well, why you're doing it, and you've got that kind of deeply rooted and really worked out, then the mission statement should just fall out quite easily, because it's just an extension of that why.
Exactly. I think the story is first. Work on your story, get that, and then from that the mission statement is next, because a mission statement is something that sets the greatest businesses apart from the rest. Because I'm imagining everyone who's listening to this has worked jobs, right? You go and work a job that you get paid for, right? You do it for the money, right? How many jobs have you done for other people that you do because you believe in it? It's rarer. I'm lucky as a self-employed composer to work with people who have really powerful core values that resonate with my core values, and I believe deeply in what I am doing, and the power of that is incredible, because doing a big project that it will get hard, it will get difficult, it will get painful, on stress and all of those things. And it's in those moments that having a powerful mission statement with your core values in it will help you prevail and understand when things are hard. I know I'm doing this because, right? Yeah,
just come back to the mission statement, and that will just give you a burst of inspiration all over again. When things are difficult, when things are a real struggle, you can just look back at that mission statement, and that can be your baseline for what you're doing. And yeah, it's there for you to be empowered.
And it's amazing for your decision-making process, okay? You've just got an opportunity. Let's say you've got two opportunities, right? You have to choose between one. You've got this project and you've got that project, right? And it's well, which one do I pick? Well, if you've got a really grounded mission statement, then you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and what your core values are. So you can ask the question, does this project resonate with my core values and my mission statement? Yes or no? If it's a no, you don't do it. If it's a yes, you do it. It's amazing. And for me, really understanding this stuff about myself, I actually attract other people who believe the same things. And I actually got headhunted for a job recently that I'm doing, which I can't talk about too much because I signed an NDA, but essentially it's this really exciting project, and it resonates deeply with my core values and my mission statement. So, and the reason you got headhunted was because your brand is so clear, and the whole spiritual side of what you do is why you've been chosen for that. It's because your mission statement is just so strong, right? And it resonates with the core values of that project. So it's pretty simple, really. If you get this stuff right, then all these doors are going to open up to you, and everything makes much more sense. And should we talk a bit about the pivotal slice mission statement? It seems appropriate. Sure, yeah. So when we set about creating this project,
there are a lot of podcasts out there. I'm sure we're all aware. It's a busy market, and it's one of those areas that could be considered quite hard to set yourself apart from what everyone else is doing. So that's why it's so important to sit down at the start of the project with whoever you're working with, or if you're doing it by yourself, and really just hammer out the details of why, the core values, and the mission statement. And so that's what we did at the start of this project. That's the first thing we did. And we're both artists. We're both very passionate about this. We're both very passionate about following your dreams and all that stuff that we've been talking about. So that forms the basis of our mission statement and why we're doing what we're doing. It's to, support other artists, champion other artists, and really bring to light what goes on in the creative process, in the hopes of inspiring our listeners to then go and create and just live the best version of themselves, really, as cheesy as that sounds.
Yeah, but it's a mission to live by. What else are we going to do?
We've both worked jobs that we didn't like, that were really disempowering. So I think that factors into it as well. Again, that's part of our experience and our past, is not wanting to go back to that and right, how are we going to forge ahead and really create our own opportunities? How are we going to set this up so that we can reach out to any guests that we want to reach out to. We can have these really in-depth conversations and put them out there and hopefully inspire other people. I mean, that is just a dream in itself, I think, for both of us.
Yeah, and another thing with this podcast is that we want to change the story, because I think the story in media, the story in Hollywood, can be very disempowering, and it's non-inclusive of lots of underrepresented cultures. These are things that we see all the time, and so that's another part of the brand, is that we want to rewrite the story. We're writers, so of course we want to do that, and this is a platform that we can talk about doing that. We can talk with other people about how they're doing that, because I really believe in storytelling as a core part of the human experience. It's through stories we understand the world. So empowering ourselves through changing that narrative is very, very important to me.
Yeah, and I think for me as well, it's about being liberated from systems that are currently in place, and these big companies that have a monopoly on the arts. It's about forging that independence, finding a space where we can decide how we want this to look. We're not reliant on anyone else to validate us or give us permission. This is our project, and we can do whatever we want with it. It can look however we want it to look. So for me, at least, that's a big part of it as well, is being liberated, and just creating a project that is empowering to me. It's something that I would want to listen to.
Okay, in the final section of this episode, we're going to talk a bit about marketing. So we've talked about the story, we've talked about mission statement and core values. So now we're going to take the work that we've done in those areas, and then we're going to be funneling that through our tube that goes outwardly into the sea of the internet. So let's look a bit about that. Jade, there you go.
So we've talked a little bit about social media already. And social media should really just be an extension of your mission statement. Again, just keep going back to that mission statement whenever you're making any creative or business decision, even in terms of the name of your brand, whether that's just your name or if you want to build more of, a company with a separate name. All of this stuff, you can just use the mission statement again to decide on things. And we're both meditators, you can also use meditation to ask these questions. So I've just built a new brand called Oranges Journal, and I sat down to meditate because I originally had a different name for that. I was originally going to call it Norma, which is named after my grandmother, which I thought was appropriate for the brand and for what I'm doing with that journal, which is intersectional feminist journal of writing. So I originally had that name kind of vaguely in my mind, but I could just feel that it wasn't quite right. It was personal to me, but it wasn't really translatable, I guess. It wouldn't be enough to kind of grab you. It wouldn't stick in your memory. And I think that's a big part of what you need to do with the mission statement and with everything else. It's like, would I remember this? If I came across this brand or this social media page, would I remember it? And I think there's the name, but then there's also, the copy that you write to go along with the images that you post. It's just things like this, like stylistic choices that you need to make that are going to set you apart. So with Oranges, that name just came to me in a meditation because I guess could sense that the original name that I had wasn't quite right. So that was a case of sort of following my intuition and coming up with a new name for it. And once I came up with the name Oranges, everything else just kind of fell into place, because it's like, well, obviously the colour scheme for the website is decided already. I can use bold images. I can use that same colour palette on my social media. And it's just little things like that are each stage of the process, each decision is kind of informed by what we've already talked about, the story, the mission statement, and then, those first kind of steps into building the brand.
Yeah, it's got to be cohesive. Everything has got to work together. The images have got to work with the name. The name's got to work with the content. The music's got to sound like the font. The copy's got to be right to the work. It's all just got to work together perfectly. That's really, really important that it's cohesive. And I go into this stuff deeper in my course, Zen and the Art of Composing. And if anyone's interested in hearing more about that, then please email me, zencomposing@gmail.com. But I do, basically, one of the sessions that I do for that course is teaching this method of meditation that Jade is talking about, that she got her Oranges Journal name from. And in fact, I did that meditation for Pivotal Slice, right? So, and this is just so amazing how powerful our subconscious is. You can ask it questions and it will answer. And they can be things that you have no idea about. And, you've got 1,000,000 times more processing in your subconscious mind than you do in your conscious mind. Your right brain is incredibly more powerful, right? So I basically wrote the question out to ask my subconscious in the meditation. So basically I'll meditate for half an hour or so, and then I'll ask the question when I'm in a deep, relaxed state. So the question was something like, intuition. So, that's another thing that I teach on the course, is like naming your subconscious so you can address it, right? So intuition, I call it. Intuition. What is the perfect name that is completely cohesive to the brand, that is fun, memorable, funny,
Unique.
That sums up everything that we are doing, like the whole list of like adjectives, basically, right? And I meditated, right? I asked a question and I went back into the deep state in alpha, and I just heard this little voice. It was so faint, but I just heard pivotal slice, and it made me laugh. Like
I remember when you told me, it made me laugh as well.
It made me laugh, and it was just so weird. Like, where the hell did that come from? Like, it just came from nowhere, and I recorded it on my phone, and I still got the voice message recorded because it's just like, it means a lot to me actually, because it's just so funny. And I told it to Jade, and yeah, like you said, Jade, you laughed, and I just knew it was the right thing. And same when you told me Orange's journal, you said, what do you think of Orange's journal? And I smiled.
Yeah, exactly. You just want to test out people's reactions to what you're doing constantly. I think that's really important. But yeah, I mean, how amazing that the subconscious mind is just so powerful. And that's a testament to how you don't have to strain yourself doing any of this stuff. You know, your subconscious mind is there working away at answers to these questions. All you have to do is be open to receiving them and enjoy the process. I think is really important. You don't need to sit there agonizing over this stuff. If you get stuck doing any of this stuff, then just step away and allow your subconscious to do the work. Just be open, remain open. Because I think all of these things that we're talking about for both of us have taken a long time. It's not like you're going to find all the answers overnight. You just have to allow them to come in and work themselves out. And I think also, if you get stuck doing any of this, do research, do research on your competition. For this journal, I've been submitting to literary journals for about 7 years, so I had a lot of experience already, and I could kind of discern what the landscape already looked like. And I looked at other journals and I thought, right, what are they doing that I really like? What are they doing that I don't like, or that I think is kind of weak? And how can I build something that is unique to me, that, takes into account all of this research that I've done on my competitors? I think that's important as well, and that's a good place to start if you're feeling overwhelmed by finding answers to all of these questions that we're putting on you right now. It shouldn't be difficult. You don't have to suffer through this. It can be fun. And like we were just saying, your subconscious mind is a really valuable resource that you want to make friends with and be open to.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of a 6-year-old, your subconscious. I did a hypnotherapy session actually at the weekend, which was really super interesting, and I got put under hypnosis, and just had someone who was able to talk through my conscious mind into my subconscious, right? But we can all do that. So meditation, I like super recommend
that thing we keep banging on about.
It really just frees you up to be able to like hear, because it's like your intuition is like a whisper, and if you've got too much going on stress wise in your brain, you're not able to hear it. So like, doing artistic work, doing creating brands, and like doing anything in life, relationships, it's like it will all improve if you give yourself the time to meditate daily and just allow the vibrations that we all take in on a daily basis to resonate outwardly of your body. It's just I'm so thankful for it. So yeah, we've covered quite a lot of ground.
One more thing I just wanted to mention as well, actually. This is another thing that I was really scared of doing, just a couple of years ago, or even just last year, is putting my face on the brand. I think, again, as artists, we just want to put out our art, and that's kind of enough, or we feel like that's enough. You know, it should just speak for itself. We almost want our brand or our business to be this faceless thing that we just put out there. And I get that, because it can be scary. It can be scary putting your face on something. It can be scary having your picture taken, you know, talking on camera, talking on mic as well. So it's just about finding that confidence in yourself to really put your face on it, because I think we live in a world of a lot of faceless brands and companies, and what's going to set you apart is if people can see you and really understand your story on a deeper level, because they can see that, you know, a human being is associated with this art or whatever it is you're putting out into the world. So I think that's another thing as well. Just get over your fears of putting yourself out there and, you know, promoting yourself and doing all that kind of promotion. Because once you get over that hump of fear that's associated with doing that stuff, you'll come so far, and your confidence will just grow, and that will factor into the art as well. So there's only benefits, I think, from doing that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've grown so much from doing all this stuff. You know, I was terrified to go on camera, and it took me, you know, a year or two of practicing. I practiced just videoing myself, and no one ever saw it for, you know, 6 months. And, you know, when we started to do radio, we did a show for Long Throw for a year, and you know, that was scary, and we had to re-record it like loads of times and blah 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 blah, and it's taken, you know, a lot of like overcoming fears to get where we are today, where we can just put the mics on and just go, and I'm not concerned about the mistakes. I'm not concerned about sounding like an idiot. I know that I can be an idiot, it's fine. And like, people are like, want to see that. They want to see your vulnerability. They want to see the fact that you make mistakes, because they make mistakes.
They want to see your humanness, and that will just attract them to what you're doing even more. You're more likely to get loyal followers by doing that, because people will see, oh, that person's like me, you know, that person is doing what I wish I could do even. You know, you can inspire people even more by just, yeah, like you say, showing your vulnerability and showing that you have flaws, and doing it anyway, you know, putting yourself out there even though you might mess it up.
Yeah, mess it up, do it over and over and over, because that's really the road to achieving the things that you want to do in life, is just being prepared to fuck it up constantly and just do it publicly. You can just move so quickly. It's the growth's the name of the game. And just a final point to all of this is that you don't have to listen to anything we've said as well.
Twist.
This is important, because it's like, you just do this the way that you want to do it, because there's no rules to this, right? It's like, you know, there are methods that people have done to achieve things that have worked, but you just listen to your own voice and do things your own way as well. These are things that have worked for us, but you know, you could completely counter that. I mean, if you look at someone like Burial, who does no marketing, has no social media, and was very, very successful, or Banksy, or, you know, there are lots of examples of people who don't do it this way, and, you know, are fresh because they don't do it this way. You know, they stand out because they don't do this style of things.
Well, the thing is that the absence of their brand is what makes their brand. Right. So they do still have a really strong brand in a way, yeah. But it's just that, they're so elusive is the brand.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting, that, isn't it? It's like subverting what we're talking about, but it's still doing what we're talking about in a way.
Exactly, yeah. Guerrilla marketing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful. So, yeah, I think we'll end it there. We'll probably do some more episodes on this kind of stuff. Let us know if any of this was useful for you, if anything has inspired you, or any knowledge that you would like to pass on to us. Please feel free to get in touch. Come and join our Patreon. It is fucking awesome.
It's popping,
man.
On the Patreon.
We're doing exclusive episodes that you can only get subscribing. It's like £5 a month, right? It's nothing. It's like a couple of coffees or something.
Well, probably just one coffee in certain parts of Bristol.
Right. Exactly. So we've just done a new episode on writer's block.
Yeah. So we delve a little bit deeper into certain aspects of what we can only sort of touch on in these episodes that are on the main feed. So if you want to get even deeper with us, come along. We'd love to have you. And you can also suggest topics as well for the episodes that we're putting out on there. So if there's an area of your own creative process that you're a bit stuck on, or even just this, what we've been talking about today, the business / marketing / financial side of things, we're up for talking about it. So just come on over and give us your suggestions.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. And feel free to check out our individual work. The track that you've been hearing today is The Magnificent. It's a piece that I wrote. And you can follow me on Instagram, David_Mackenzie_composer. Mackenzie spelled Mackenzie. And Jade?
Yep, you can follow me on Instagram. I'll just put the link in the description.
Oh, yeah.
You made fun of me for saying all the underscores last time, so...
I did, but it's...
Who's laughing now?
It's important.
But yeah, follow our work. Submit your work to Orange's Journal. I'd love to see it, read it. Yeah, just be a part of our adventure. Yeah, please. And like I mentioned before, zencomposing@gmail.com if you're interested in the course. And massive love. Yeah, so much love.